observed in the book Isaiah, chapters 40 through 55. Quote, Yahweh hath raised up one from the east, that's Cyrus, whom he calleth in righteousness to his foot. End quote. Cyrus is to the prophet the, quote, servant of Yahweh, the deliverer, and he enthusiastically summons his fellow captives to accept the opportunity and return to their beloved land of Judah. So many of these contentious events in the Bible have their roots just in the policy of stupid rulers in the Persian Empire and the Assyrian Empire before that. Although there was a return of exiles, they seem to have been few and unimportant at first, and they established only a wretched, struggling community at Jerusalem for many years. Fully half the population in Palestine was non-Jewish and opposed to the returned exiles. The statesmanship and practical administrative ability of Cyrus are also seen in his thorough organization of imperial and administration through satraps. Vocabulary word ding S-A-T-R-A-P-S, satrap. This system was more fully developed by Darius later, but the spirit and general framework of the organization are doubtless due to the great founder of the empire. At the death of Cyrus in 529 BC, he was succeeded by his son Cambyses, who 4 years later accomplished what Nebuchadnezzar had failed to do, and what even Assyria realized only for a few years, namely the conquest of Egypt. He was aided by the desertion of Egypt's great mercenary troops to himself, and by the dissatisfaction of priests and nobles with the pharaoh, Amasis. His use of the Phoenician fleet and his alliance with Cyprus and Polycrates, the Greek tyrant of Samos, also contributed much to his success. He organized Egypt into a Persian satrapy, won Libya and Cyrene, and penetrated into Ethiopia to Elephantine. According to Herodotus, he later sent 50,000 troops along the coast of North Africa to conquer Carthage. But if this is so, they were never heard from again. Interesting. Cambyses died on his way back to Persia, and Darius killed the subsequent pretender and seized the throne. His campaigns of the first 2 years, during which he put down the revolts in Babylon, Media, and Armenia, are described in the most important historical monument in Asia, his famous Bihitsun inscription, carved on a rock 300 feet high on the main road between Babylon and Persia. The inscription is written in 3 main languages: Persia, the Persian cuneiform, with its alphabet of 39 letters, Babylonian cuneiform, and the Elamite dialect. We have previously noted that it was by means of copies of this great inscription that the old Babylonian cuneiform was finally deciphered. Darius was the first Oriental conqueror to extend his empire across the Hellespont into Europe. He made campaigns into Thrace and Macedon, and claimed both as subject to himself. His empire thus extended from Egypt and Macedon on the west to India on the east, and from Arabia and the Persian Gulf in the south to the Caspian and Black Seas on the north, an empire about as extensive from east to west as the United States. The future political history of the Persian Empire, from about 500 to 333 BC, when it fell before Alexander the Great, is so interwoven with the history of Greece that it will be best considered in that connection. I agree, we probably won't get that bit from this book, but that is how we will approach it as well. Now, it mentions that they had actually gotten up into Europe. It says that they were into Macedonia. Parts of Macedonia were coming under sway. Now, I've seen very fun and interesting representations. This is Persia here, and I've seen representations where it's coming up here into Macedonia, and so it's like a big jaw, and all this is owned by Persia. All this here is Persian, even getting clear up over here, and then down here, and they own clear over this way, Persia, all this Persian. So this is like a big alligator jaw, and then this great big creature, dragon, stretching back into Asia. Well, here's Greece, right in the mouth of the jaws of this massive creature. not yielding an inch, and some of the most famous battles of all of history were fought between this tiny nation and this gargantuan alligator attempting to swallow it. Okay, we're chapter 12, Hellenic colonial expansion and the resulting economic and political evolution. Some interesting treatment. Now, some of this we've treated before, but I'm skipping the part that we've treated. You know, he mentioned stuff that we've heard of. Once in a while we'll hear a little bit, but we're just getting some valuable additions to the previous text we sampled from. Hellenic colonization, the chief cause of Greek colonial expansion, which we looked for again and again, and all I found was discontent before, right? Discontent. But politicians are discontent, or the peasants are discontent as somebody goes somewhere because they don't like it here. The chief cause of Greek colonial expansion was at first land hunger, discontent, due to a number of causes. Meager agricultural resources, the impossibility of expanding inland in Asia Minor, the monopoly of land by great noble families, the persistence of primogeniture in family tenure, which left the younger sons landless, and the division of the land into holdings of insufficient size in those places where private tenure was already developing. But even from the first, other causes of colonization were somewhat active, such as a desire for adventure, failure or discontent at home, and search for natural resources other than land and opportunities for trade. This last motive became more and more important, opportunities for trade. The geographical situation of even some of the early colonies was clearly not chosen for agricultural purposes, and this is true of many of the later ones. Later, party strife and social discontent produced by the economic changes also became a fruitful cause of colonization. The first Greek colonies were primitive ventures without much plan or leadership. So now we are down to page 174, the character of the city-state. A couple paragraphs here and we'll be done with Trevor for now. On the subject of the city-state, the three largest states were Sparta, 3,360 square miles, Athens, 1,060 square miles, and Syracuse, 1,720. Those aren't in alphabetical order and they're not in numerical order. Such states as Corinth, Argos, and Thebes had only a few hundred square miles, and the usual area was below 100. So Athens is at least 10 times the size of the average state. The islands of any size were commonly divided into many independent cities. Skip a bit. The population of the Greek city-states was also small, limited by economic conditions, birth control, and aristocratic land tenure. Athens, with its 40 to 50,000 adult male citizens in the Periclean age, was a marked exception, and states with a citizen population of 1/3 that number were above the average. Now, 40 to 50,000 adult males means another 40 to 50,000 women, and another 40 to 50,000, and probably a hell of a lot more than that, children, maybe 100, 150, or 200,000, or more. Adult male, 40 or 50,000 adult male citizens. They fielded 30,000 hoplites when the Persians came. Amazing force. The utopian philosophers of the 4th century BC were not so far away from the actual conditions then in suggesting from 5 to 10,000 as an ideal number of citizens. Now we skip quite a bit there. In the early Greek state, law was attributed a divine origin and sanction. Law was practically one with religion, and religion in its social and political aspects. This gave the king more sanctity, but he was, after all, only the first among equals, that is, in the Greek city-states. If he became too arbitrary, the nobles united against him. In such ways, the organization of the city-state itself was a contributing cause of the decline of patriarchal monarchy and the rise of aristocracy. And we're done with Trevor for now.